And hello, good evening, welcome to Dave's Tackle Box. It's Sunday the 28th of October, nearly Christmas, and it's 9 o'clock GMT. So, it's not British summertime anymore. That's good, got an extra hour in bed. And once again, I appear to have the man flu, which I'm delighted about. But that's okay, that's okay. Right, tonight on Dave's Tackle Box, I'm going to got a slight departure from the normal format. I've got a bit of a shout out to do before we get cracking, but I'm going to devote the large part of the show over to an issue which has been concerning me a bit. I think it's something that we need to discuss on Vapor Trails TV. I'm pretty certain that we're going to discuss this a little bit more in other shows on VTTV and probably for some time to come. But I'll elaborate more very shortly. I just want to do this shout out first, and then we'll come back to the main topic for tonight. Okay, so I didn't do a show last week. It was my son's 18th birthday. He's an adult, which scares me even now. I haven't got used to it yet after a week. But anyway, I wasn't here. But the week before, I showed you a little VT involving my NGP touch fire. Do you remember that? The touch sensitive thing that I keep taking to bed and falling asleep, and it fires and it melts and all the rest of it. Now, I recorded that VT on the Friday before my last show, and on the Saturday I was at the knees up, and I took the NGP with me, and to be honest with you, it wasn't working like it should. It really wasn't. It turns out that super glue's not the best thing to use. It does sort of contain arsenic and stuff like that, but the threads were so damaged on the top of it, it just wasn't right. But I got back anyway after the show last week, 2 weeks ago, when I broadcast the VT. I got a PM from Worm 1973, who I know is in chat tonight, so hi Julian. And he said to me, I've got an NGP which is broken, but the top cap's good. You can have it. So I said to him, brilliant, what do you want for it? And he wouldn't take anything for it, because he's a nice guy. And he actually sent me some little bits and bobs. There's the remains of his NGP, which doesn't look like it's going to fly anymore, but I might have a word with Mr. Dibley and see what he can do with this, because all the bits are there. But it needs somebody far more talented than me to bring that back to life, I think. But the top cap fits perfectly. I need to make a slight adjustment somehow, because the air hole doesn't line up with the coil. It looks like they're specific to each one, so I need to do a bit of tweaking. But it's a darn sight better than the botched job I did of fixing it. So the whole purpose of me mentioning this is to give recognition to Worm 1973, aka Julian. Really nice guy. Met him on a number of occasions at meets and what have you. Thank you very much, sir. It's much appreciated. Thank you. And look, just... it's not choking me the way that it was with my terrible repair. So thank you for that, Worm. Thank you. Now, we shall get on to the main topic of the show. So what we're going to do tonight, as I say, we're going to devote basically what's left of this show to a particular topic. We might meander off, because I'm going to be joined a little bit later on by Dave Dorn, aka the Hi-Fi Stud. And we're going to be looking at a topic, as I say, which is starting to cause me a little bit of concern. We all know about nicotine being potentially a harmful substance. We all know that liquid really needs to be mixed in sterile conditions. It needs to be done in a clean room. It needs to be done with some quality control, and specifically batch control, so we know what's in the liquid that we buy. It's a fantastic sort of phenomenon, this e-cig thing. Everybody's heard of them now. When I started 2 years ago, people said, what's that? Now they say, is that an electronic cigarette? Because these things are on the verge of going mainstream. It seems like at least one a day, sometimes more, new e-liquid vendors are appearing. And the purpose of this is not to name and shame anybody. I'm not going to name anybody at all, frankly. But I'm noticing people who are selling juice, and I don't know where it's been mixed. I don't know what base nicotine they're using. And it's starting to worry me a little bit. I've put together this VT. It goes on a bit. It's not designed probably for the people who are watching this live for the first 5 minutes or so of it. It's kind of a set in the scene thing. The video's already on YouTube. I uploaded it just before we started this show, just a few minutes before. I've recorded this video to basically set the scene for people who don't necessarily know much about vaping, and then to plant a thought in people's minds. I'm hoping it's going to provoke a lot of discussion and some comments. I don't expect it's going to be completely popular with everybody that watches it, but please take it in the spirits it's intended, which is to provoke a bit of thought over something that actually, I think, really matters. The VT is called The Elephant in the Room, and I'm going to play it now. Roll VT. Hi, my name's Dave Kitson. On the internet I sometimes go by the name of Dave K or the Happy Vapor, but like millions of other people around the world, I've switched from smoking cigarettes to using electronic cigarettes. This is an electronic cigarette, though you may be more accustomed to seeing models like this one, whether it be in the national press or online, in shopping centres, or even in your local supermarket. This one performs better than this one, but they both essentially do the same thing, and that is to provide the user with nicotine in a sort of smoking-like way. You might occasionally see these more advanced models being referred to by some as PVs or personal vaporizers, especially on the sort of enthusiast and hobbyist internet forums. Personally, I just refer to all of mine as e-cigs. There's a large global internet forum and blogging community sprung up in the last few years for people who either use these or are just curious to find out about them. We've even got a name for ourselves. We call ourselves vapors. Not smokers, vapors. We spend time on internet forums and even get together from time to time to meet like-minded people and swap notes on the latest and greatest e-cigs on the market. So for many of us, these things have transcended our addiction and become a hobby. Myself, I'm involved in this online community in a couple of different ways. I'm a moderator on the UK Vapors Forum. I run a not very well maintained blog called the Happy Vapor blog, and I also run a show on vaportrails.tv. I have a weekly show called Dave's Tackle Box, where we look at e-cig related issues, including the one I'm going to talk about now. Now, just in case you're new to electronic cigarettes, it's worth taking a little look and see what makes them work. They generally consist of a battery and a small coil called an atomizer, which heats up when you inhale on your device or press a button. That heated coil heats up liquid which contains nicotine, propylene glycol or PG, and or vegetable glycerin, VG, together with a bit of flavouring to give off vapour similar to in appearance to cigarette smoke. Vapors often refer to the liquid as e-liquid, or I tend to just call it juice. Now, like many other people, since switching to electronic cigarettes, in my case just over 2 years ago, I found that I no longer need to light up a cigarette to satisfy my nicotine addiction. And since making the switch, I haven't lit up a cigarette since. That's just over 2 years being smoke-free after being a 28-year, 20-plus cigarettes a day smoker. Now, some people obviously find it harder to make that switch completely than others, and funnily enough, in my case, I didn't actually set out to stop smoking cigarettes at all. I purchased an electronic cigarette out of curiosity, really, and then just one day just found that I wasn't any longer reaching for my cigarettes or my lighter. It just sort of happened by accident. Now, although I don't use cigarettes anymore, and I don't smoke anymore, I don't actually consider that I've quit. In fact, I enjoy nicotine far more now than I ever did as a smoker. Purely because of the range of flavours available, the different sort of sensations, and the way I can control the way I take my nicotine intake. But of course, most of all, because I'm no longer inhaling all those carcinogens that we know can be very damaging to your health. It's more enjoyable, and I feel better than I ever did as a smoker. So as you'll have worked out by now, I'm an advocate for electronic cigarettes. I'm recording this video at a time where electronic cigarettes are on the verge of becoming a mainstream electrical product. It's difficult to spend any time online these days or read the national newspapers without seeing at least one ad for electronic cigarettes. And of course, it's an exciting, fast-moving new industry with lots of possibilities for people to make money. New companies and new products are appearing almost daily, and even as an enthusiast and an internet blogger and somebody who runs a vaping-related online TV show, I find it really difficult to keep up with developments, even just here in the UK. So it's an exciting time to be around electronic cigarettes, either as a consumer or in business. But there's an elephant in the room, as they say. As new companies and new products appear almost daily, it seems, how do we know that what we're buying is of a suitable quality, a sufficient quality, and let's be honest, how do we know it's safe? At this point, we probably need a little bit of background information. Anecdotal evidence suggests that switching to electronic cigarettes is a much more reliable way of reducing dependency on tobacco cigarettes than any nicotine replacement therapy or NRT that might be prescribed to you by your doctor, manufactured by the big pharmaceutical companies. Certainly in my experience, that seems to be borne out by the conversations I have with people who have tried many different forms of NRT, but have only had success and stopped buying cigarettes because of electronic cigarettes. Now, this has led many governments and health authorities around the globe to seek to regulate electronic cigarettes and the liquid that we put in them, the e-liquid, as a medicinal product, because it can be compared to other cessation methods like nicotine patches and inhalers and gum. The number of different studies and consultations going on around the planet with the different governments is complex and a subject in its own right. But suffice it to say, for the purpose of this video, that as a vapor, I don't want the restriction and the denial of choice of product that would inevitably follow if they were to be regulated as medicinal products in this country. I want to be able to choose what flavoured juice I want to use. I want to be able to choose what strength juice I use. I don't want that dictated to me by a doctor or a pharmacist. Now, in the UK, this threat to choice that would result from regulation by the medical authorities was recognised very early on, and an organisation called e-cig was formed. That's the Electronic Cigarette Industry Trade Association, to basically petition the governments and medical authorities and promote the idea of self-regulation by the industry. And that brings us to another point. Amongst the massive information and misinformation that's out there, it's often stated, sometimes on some quite reputable news stations, that electronic cigarettes are not regulated currently. And this isn't true, so let's deal with that first. As electronic cigarettes are electronic consumer products. They, of course, are regulated by trading standards. That's the TSA. And there are documented instances of trading standards seizing products that do not meet the necessary standards to import into the EU. If a product doesn't carry the relevant kite marks, and if the evidence of testing and the proper certification isn't in place, they're illegal. So we do have regulation there. The Advertising Standards Authority, that's the ASA, will act and have acted recently on false advertising claims. When it comes to e-liquid, we have the CHIP regulations. That's the Chemicals, Hazard, Information and Packaging for Supply regulations, which basically insists that the potentially harmful nicotine e-liquid is only sold in properly labelled, child-proof bottles with tactile warning labels for people who are partially sighted and so on. So we've got regulation there too. But we have to acknowledge that nicotine itself is classed as a poison, and in high enough concentrations it can be dangerous and needs to be handled safely. There are regulations and limitations on the strength of e-liquid that can be handled by people who aren't licensed chemists. Organisations like e-cig in the UK and AMSA, and I apologise if I haven't pronounced that properly, that acronym, but it stands for the American E-Liquid Manufacturing Standards Association, are implementing standards for e-liquid sellers and audit processes to ensure that the nicotine e-liquid that we buy is of a known quantity and a known quality, and therefore inherently safe. So that does give me some comfort. And of course there are many other juice manufacturers out there who, although they may not be affiliated to these organisations, will still proudly tell you about and send you pictures and video footage of their clean mixing facilities and their hygiene standards if you ask them. So safe juice can be found. But many vapers will recall the Box Elder debacle. It was quite a recent scandal where a major supplier of concentrated nicotine liquid in the US was found to be supplying mislabeled bottles of juice and selling quite sort of dangerously high concentrations of nicotine that was labelled as a much lower concentration that could have caused people to be hospitalised or even worse. The whole issue was made worse by the fact that it wasn't actually Box Elder's internal processes and quality control that picked up these errors. It continued for a long period of time and was picked up by consumers. And by the time that had happened, much of that juice had been flavoured by smaller e-liquid retailers and sent out to customers. We were very lucky there wasn't an incident and somebody made seriously ill because of this mislabelled, badly quality controlled juice. Now, in light of that incident, awareness was raised, and any of the reputable juice retailers and manufacturers who weren't already operating good quality control procedures started to. So I guess you could say that some good did come of that, and at least nobody was hurt. But so to the issue that I want to talk about in this video. It's concerning me more and more, with so many new juice vendors appearing so quickly, that it's still possible that quality control and or hygiene standards may be sacrificed by some due to the perceived prohibitive costs of a decent quality control process, the pursuit of increased profits, or just straightforward incompetence. Personally, I only now buy e-liquid from suppliers who can satisfy me that they use clean mixing facilities, practicing good hygiene, and most importantly can point me to the evidence of batch testing of their product for quality and nicotine strength. The GCMS process, and I don't claim to know how that process works, but that's basically the laboratory test that's used to determine exactly what's in a liquid, doesn't come cheap. But I'm quite happy to pay a small premium myself to those vendors who can demonstrate that they know what's in the bottle they're selling to me. And if they can't, I move on. I don't buy from vendors who can't show me what's in their juice. I've offended a number of e-liquid retailers recently when they've asked me to review juices for Vapor Trails TV or for my blog or for YouTube, and they haven't been able to satisfy me that what I will inhale into my lungs is safe. through the methods that I was talking about before. I want to see evidence of good quality control, and I've got no reservations in offending a few more if that becomes necessary. That might seem like quite a harsh stance, because I've got no desire to harm or deter any small businesses from earning a living from what happens to be my hobby. I have no issue with that. After all, more choice is generally a better thing, isn't it? But I'm becoming increasingly concerned that we may soon see a repeat of the Box Elder scandal, or worse. I'm also aware that many, particularly new users of electronic cigarettes, will not be aware that there could be risks, and perhaps won't think to ask the questions that I do when they're buying juice, whether it be from a market stall or online or wherever. It's not beyond the realms of possibility that we'll one day see a headline telling us how someone ended up in hospital or worse because of misidentified nicotine concentration or contaminants in e-liquid. It really isn't. Some people even think it's inevitable. If that does happen, then you can be assured that the case for medical regulation of e-liquid will become a formality. And even though I'm strongly opposed to classification as a medicine, it would surely be impossible to argue against it if people are being poisoned. I'll be showing this video on Vapor Trails TV as part of my live broadcast on Sunday the 28th of October 2012. That goes out at 9 PM GMT. I'll also be displaying it on my blog, and I may post it on a forum or two around the internet to try and get some comment. The purpose of this video is to raise awareness. Do you know, I ask you the question specifically, do you know that what the label on your bottle of e-liquid says is what's really in the bottle? And if you do, how do you know? If you're not, maybe you should ask your e-liquid supplier how they know what's in that bottle. So hopefully that'll provoke some comments, both to me and to the e-liquid retailers. I'll monitor the comments wherever this video is posted, and if there's anything that seems worthy or appropriate for further discussion on VTTV, then we'll certainly pick that up and run with it. But until then, happy vaping, and thanks for watching. And there you go. So that VT was to get the discussion going, and there were a couple of comments raised in chat there, which I definitely want to respond to. It was designed to provoke some thought and comment, and it's done that, so that's good to see. But first, I'm just going to take a break, and then we'll get Dave Dorn on the screen here with me, and we'll go from there. So see you in 2.
Sponsors of Dave's Tackle Box.
Good evening. Taking a while to get things lined up and ready to go. But I'm here now, so welcome to Dave's Tackle Box.
So there, there we go. I'm back in the room and not long to go now. So yeah, I was talking to my son and he's watched me make things before. At Veterans TV Towers, tonight being Wednesday night, it is time for the one and only chat show programme called VT Talk. Tis the Haze Hour. Again, Keith was just saying if it wasn't for the titles, he wouldn't come and do the show. He loves them so much, doesn't he? Alright.
Cloud9 Vaping, sponsors of Dave's Tackle Box.
I'll press the right button eventually, Dave. Good evening, Mr. Dorn. How are you?
Good evening. I'm very well, sir, and how are you?
I'm all right. Touch of man flu, as I say, but, I'm not one to complain.
You're
much.
a martyr to it, and you do nothing but complain, be honest.
Yeah, it's fair. It's a fair comment. So, okay, I sent you a sort of rough edit of that VT a little bit earlier, so you can absorb it. We've had some comments in the chat there, and it's all good stuff. There's some really good debate going there. I've maybe not sold my point too well, the point that I'm trying to make in the VT, but I can comment on that in a bit. I mean, before we sort of start, because I suspect that you and I are going to differ very slightly in some of the aspects of this. We have since we've met pretty much. I was watching the remember the panel at Vape Fest 2010.
Good Lord, yes.
Yes, and I was sort of quite naive and all the rest of it there. But whilst we were sort of broadly aligned, we did sort of... I can remember saying, that I expect this stuff to be regulated and to be safe, and you had a contra opinion. But before we get into that sort of level of detail, I mean, what was your feeling on the VT? I mean, were you in broad agreement with that, or...?
Broadly, yes. And for different reasons, I think. As folks that have been watching VT Talk lately will doubtless be aware, I'm quite worried about the World Health Organization, about the MHRA, about the EU and the FDA and various other bodies they're putting us under the microscope. The WHO's making no bones about it. It wants to see the back end of e-cigs as soon as is humanly possible for all the wrong reasons. And I just worry that we may give unintentionally the wrong example. We may give them fuel towards their particular fire. That's one side of the argument for me. The other side is, actually, I do want to know where and how liquids are made. I worry that somebody's going to be mixing in, for argument's sake, an ensuite bathroom, and I'm going to get a bottle of juice with a pube in it. And
We say that almost laughable, but I mean, that is actually, I'm sure that'll get a bit of a chuckle for people watching. But, if you can get a bloody pubic hair in it, you can get some bleach, which has been mentioned in chat already tonight, isn't it? Yes. I want to know, but the point is about quality control. I want to know that there's only what's supposed to be in that bottle. And particularly, I want to know that the concentration of nicotine in the liquid is as it claims to be.
Well, yes. I mean, there are two vital things here. One is if you've bought 36 milligram, it needs to be 36 milligram. I don't want 18.
Yeah.
And I don't want 54. I want 36, or as close as damn it. I'll take 35 or 37, but that's the range. That's where I want it. The second thing is I need to know that what's in the bottle is what's on the label and nothing else. I need to know it's being packed, bottled, made, presented in hygienic conditions. And to me, the base level for this is food preparation standards. And that's not difficult to achieve.
And one of the comments, in chat already tonight was, do we insist on this kind of detail and knowledge of what's in a bleach bottle? I think toilet duck was an example.
Yes, you do.
And then the answer is yes. And anybody who has worked anywhere around a Procter and Gamble or a Unilever site, I'm telling you, they know exactly what's in that bottle. And if they ever get it wrong, they will move heaven and earth to put it right. It's very, very unusual. There has to be several systematic failures for the wrong stuff to go out into the shop in that bottle. I'm just not convinced that we've got anything like that with a large amount of e-liquid on the market.
I think you've got to define large amount. I mean, my feeling is that the bulk of e-liquid that's moved comes from at least food standard labs and above.
That's a really good point, Dave, and I'll amend my statement. Let's just say a large number of sources. Okay, because I think it's fair to say that the large volumes of e-liquid do come from relatively few sources.
Absolutely. I mean, it's and they're well known. I think it's what we're talking about really is the very small operations that are almost what you would call boutique. And while it's eminently possible, and if you go to any of the big manufacturers, they generally speaking are quite happy to open the doors and let you have a look because they're proud of their operation and they know it's squeaky clean.
Indeed.
I'm not so sure you get exactly the same kind of reception from some of the small boutique folks. And like yourself, I think I'm about to become unliked here. But frankly, I think it's something that does need to be spoken about. It does need to be talked about, and people need to think about it. Now, have I got a couple of minutes to just kind of say where I'm at on this one?
Yeah, go for it.
I'm a libertarian, and what that means is if you want to use one of the boutique people and you are happy that what they are putting out is something that you want to use, I do not deny you the right to do that. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. It's not for me, and I suspect, and this is probably rather more important, it's not for the MHRA, the WHO, the FDA, the EU, or NICE. And these are the people who, for better or worse, are going to be governing where we go, whether we want them to or not. They're unelected. We can't boot them out of power kind of thing. But they are the people that are going to be making the decisions. And
I agree with you. Can I interject? I'm sorry to cut across your train of thought, but
okay.
I agree with you. But this is where it starts to get a bit fuzzy for me. Who is it up to? Who does take responsibility for that?
Well, someone has to ultimately, unfortunately, in this litigious society that we all seem to be living in now, and I would think it's probably worse in the States than it is in the UK. But it just takes one. I mean, look at restaurants and hotels where they have an outbreak of salmonella because they've cracked an unpasteurized egg into whatever. Now, my feeling is you're going to eat 1.5 pounds of dirt before you're 21. We all did. I ate worms and snails and didn't wash my hands after I went to the loo, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, that's fine. We old farts are old farts, and we're pretty well inured to anything like that. But there are people out there that have been brought up wrapped in cotton wool, as I see it. Again, this is the old fart talking. And they would go to a restaurant and get a bit of mayonnaise that's been made with raw egg, as it should be. And one's gone through that's unpasteurised, and the poor chicken that laid it's croaked, it's had it salmonella in there. They're poorly bad in bed with a shawl on, both feet in one sock, waiting for the doctor to come and pronounce them dead because they've eaten the mayonnaise. Yeah. Now, that happens in one. That hotel goes down because hotels and restaurants have food standards, preparation areas that they are supposed to adhere to in order to apply their trade. That's the way it's being worked. What we have here is a situation where exactly the same kind of thing could happen due to another box elder or the pube in the bottle syndrome, if we want to call it that. The problem is, as yet, there are no acknowledged standards that have come from on high. We have the standards that ACETA has put out.
Yes, yeah.
Damn good standards they are.
Indeed.
But people are not obliged to abide by those standards. Now, for me, on a personal basis, as I say, I have no problem with that. But on the basis of what the powers that be might see, I can see them having a major problem with that. Whereas the salmonella outbreak closes one restaurant until they've got themselves back up to code, a box elder outbreak that causes somebody hospitalisation or death could see a flat outright, that's it, it's stopped. That's the danger that we've got.
Yeah, okay. You made that point really, really well. I just want to pick up on something that went going past in chat, and I apologise. I'm not going to be able to get them all, guys. I'm taking the occasional glance, and I'm trying to skim out the odd comment to respond to it. But one of the comments I saw was, we're talking about somebody mixing in their ensuite or their kitchen, and one of the comments was that it could be the cleanest kitchen you've ever seen. Let me be clear where I'm coming from on this, guys, right? I don't think that there's anybody out there deliberately trying to poison anybody or put crap in the juice.
No.
But if you are mixing in a kitchen or an ensuite, what guarantees have I got that you haven't made a mistake? Because mistakes happen. And the way you deal with the risk... My job title is I'm a governance, risk and compliance consultant in software, but the principles are the same. The way you deal with risk is you have processes and controls in place to catch it when it happens and before it really becomes an issue. How do I know, without asking, that these controls are in place? Dave, you made the point brilliantly there. I don't want it to be anybody with the word medical in their organisation title that does this because of the connotations.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
But who does it fall to? You're right, we've got food standards. Does this fall under trading standards? Do they need to develop a code by which liquid should be mixed? Because let's be honest, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the batch quality control of incoming nicotine-based liquid, and then what it's mixed with and what it looks like when it goes out the door.
Well, I am not a lawyer, there's the first thing, but I would think it would be eminently possible to adapt food hygiene standards and apply them to e-liquids on the basis that these things are being made for human consumption, but not in a medical way. Yeah. So if we were to kind of take that on board and say that that's the base level, and everybody agreed to that, if then the various different organisations, whether it be ECA, CETA or whoever, were to say to trading standards, this is what we believe is the case, how do you feel? Trading standards, I would think, would accede to that quite nicely because it gives them a base level with which they are familiar. And from that point on, it's straightforward. And I'm here to tell you that food standards are not massively expensive to comply with. It doesn't have to be, a great big laboratory with fume cupboards and God knows what else. It needs quite simple preparations, in fact, and certain standards of cleanliness and hygiene and single use, as in, that's where you make the juice. You don't bathe the dog there. You don't cut your toenails there. And you don't change the baby's nappy on the preparation
And you wash
surface.
it down and you sterilise equipment and what appears to be common sense. It's just one thing there. Do you think it's in the interests of a trade association, and it's going to be a little bit controversial here, is it in the interests of a trade association to petition the government for that kind of standard?
I would never petition the government. I would petition trading standards. Different kettle of fish. You're talking to a department there.
But the point remains.
Well, yes, I would think so. It would certainly be worthwhile ECA doing that because ECA is therefore looking after its members, the consumers, by ensuring that this stuff is created in hygienic conditions and to hygienic standards. It kind of doesn't address the batch testing of everything coming in. But again, if you were only purchasing your liquid from a certain supplier or a certain source, I think, again, it does no harm to say this is made with blah, 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 e-liquid, nicotine, concentrated nicotine that we've bought.
But there's also the argument that says if you would become legally liable for what goes out the door, that will self-enforce a check on what's coming in.
Well, they are legally liable anyway. That's the bit. I mean, I was appalled to see on one of the forums over the last couple of weeks that somebody was asking about liability insurance, and they couldn't. Well, I'll not go too far because I don't really want to identify them, but they completely misunderstood the point of liability insurance. This was product liability insurance they should have been looking for, and they were thinking that 48 quid a month was a bit expensive. And it wasn't until somebody came in and said, well, actually, you need product liability insurance, and that's going to set you back many thousands per annum. And it was kind of, oh, I can't afford that. I'll just get the public liability. And I'm thinking, ye gods and little fishes, when you get sued, your house is going.
Well, absolutely. And I dare say that the bleach and toilet duck manufacturers do have product liability insurance also.
And anybody that produces anything that has any hazard has product liability insurance. They have to have, because they can be sued within an inch of their lives. I mean, if something you produce causes death, illness, or infirmity, you are looking at payouts of millions of pounds.
Oh, yeah, you're easily into seven figures, aren't you? Easily.
Yeah, easily. Yeah. And you've got to have insurance to cover that. Without it, then that's you done for the rest of your life.
Well, I would go as far as saying it's reckless.
I think it's criminal, actually.
It probably is.
Dave, in the true sense of the word.
Let's take a break. During which it's flying by, mate. I knew it would. I'm going to have a quick trawl of the chat and see if we can pull out some comments there to get us through till the end. End of part 2.
Cloud9 Vaping, sponsors of Dave's Tackle Box.
The GG, because you want one.
iVapor and iVapor Elixir, based in Yorkshire, for your e-cig needs. That's ivapor.co.uk and ivapor-elixir.co.uk. iVapor and ivapor-elixir.co.uk, proud sponsors of vaportrails.tv.
If you can't watch our shows live, try some of these. Go to YouTube at youtube.com/user/vaportrailstv and you can subscribe there. All of our shows are uploaded as soon as possible after they've gone out live. Enjoy watching it on YouTube. Lots of people do. Alternatively, go to Google and type in podcast vaportrails.tv and iTunes. Click on the link and that will take you to a page that shows you the Vapor Trails TV podcast. View it in iTunes, and when you get to iTunes, don't forget to click on subscribe free, and each of the shows will be downloaded to your hard drive as soon as they come out. Or you can use video on demand. Go to www.vaportrails.tv, click on vPlayer, pick the show you want to watch, in this case it's the Haze Hour, and then you can pick the episode that you want to watch from every one that we've ever done. They're all there. Under normal circumstances, you'll watch it at 360p, which means everybody can see it. It'll go full screen. You can do whatever you want with it. So there you go, 3 ways that you can watch vaportrails.tv. Subscribe and enjoy. Thanks.
Cloud9 Vaping, sponsors of Dave's Tackle Box.
And we're back in the room. Hello again, Dave.
Hiya.
So that's quite funny. I was supposed to be reading chat there and pointing out comments, but we just carried on debating the subject.
This is what happens on VT Talk. You've got no idea. Seriously, we've put the world to rights in the adverts before now.
Yeah, exactly. A couple of comments I did pull out there. There seemed to be quite a lot of support for the idea of some kind of regulation, sort of in line with food standards regulation, and that seems very logical to me because that's what we're interested in, isn't it? It's hygiene standards.
I think it's volunteering to abide by the same standards and generating some kind of understanding with trading standards so that government doesn't need to get involved and legislate.
Yes.
That's the whole point. And if trading standards can be shown that everybody that's producing e-juice is working to food hygiene standards, and in fact, if trading standards could be persuaded that that's what needs to be applied, then that's pretty good, because then TSA has no axe to grind when it comes to the MHR ringing them up and saying, these e-cigs, what do you think, lads?
Yeah,
no, that's fine,
Yeah, I think that's good. Another comment that I picked up there as well was a comment about regulating the maximum strength of e-liquid, and there's two ways to look at this, as far as I'm concerned. The comment in chat was that maybe for base nicotine to be regulated to 36 milligrams. That just wouldn't be enough.
Is this for mixing yourself?
I believe so, yeah. I think that was the suggestion.
Already regulated to 75, and it doesn't need to be regulated any lower.
And that's my point. Yeah.
I'll tell you for why. Dave likes 45.
I do.
I like 45. And I was in the company on Tuesday of last week of a gentleman who knows his way around e-liquid, I think it is safe to say, and he uses on a daily basis 60 milligram.
I know who you mean, and I would agree with your assessment of him.
And he puts it down a lot.
Yes.
He uses it like fags.
Yeah.
He'll have 4 or 5 drags, that's it. I sat and watched with a great deal of attention. That's what he does. That's how he uses it. And he's not using this kind of stuff either. It's basic 510s, and that's great. So no, I wouldn't support limiting anything to 36 milligram. We've already got regulation in place to 75. That's fine by me. If anything, I would be pushing for 100, but we're not going to get that.
Yeah.
So 75 is cool. You can work with that. But no.
Yeah, exactly. My personal view on it is that it's still pretty cheap, and therefore, if you can get it at a strength to allow you to add your flavouring, and it still comes out at 45, I'm happy. Personally.
Exactly. The bottom line on all of this, I think, is that we've got to be able to know who we trust and what we trust. And what we trust, or what we need to trust, is the paper, is the proof, is the documentation of the base liquid, where it's come from, who manufactured it, the date of manufacture, the whole paper trail right the way through.
Yeah.
So that wherever anything does occur, it can be traced back so you can find out what's gone wrong.
Yeah.
Not necessarily for litigation purposes, but just to be able to know so that advice can be given to folks that are trying to put it right.
Exactly.
And
it's
so
basic, this is not a new concept. This is basic quality control.
Absolutely.
Being able to trace something back to the source where it went wrong, so you can take preventative measures to stop it going wrong in the future.
And that kind of doesn't conflict with my libertarian view on anything. As I keep on saying this because I think a lot of people don't understand what libertarianism means, and it's self-reliance basically, with the minimum of interference from governmental bodies, because there's no need for governmental bodies to interfere where you rely upon yourself to do things the right way. Sometimes there's a need for some kind of interference, if you like, to suggest what the right way might be.
Yeah.
And it gives people then the choice to use that particular business or not to use that business. And I don't want to see choice taken away. However, I do want to see the places I buy from working to at least food hygiene standards. And that would make me extremely happy. And I think the vast majority of other people using e-cigs out there as well. Plus, we've got to be mindful of the fact that they are looking to get shot of e-liquid. And
Yes.
it just takes one or two nasty incidents, and they've got more fuel for that particular fire.
Well, this is the other aspect that I hope I touched on in the VT. Okay, forget the consequences in terms of health for poor quality control. Just imagine the publicity. If we hand the MHRA, for example, the stick with which to beat us, they will beat us.
Oh, and how?
So if we had a box elder in the UK, I dare say we'd be a lot less confident of beating the MHRA back.
A lot less, I would think, because it's so much of a smaller island, and the MHRA appears to have so much more clout. Perhaps not as much as it used to have, but it does have much more clout and can do things very quickly. And our court system doesn't respond quite as quickly as the American court system does to prevent them, which is a shame in many ways.
It is. It is.
Somebody, Lazy Dog, said it's okay having no regulations, Dave, but we have to trust third parties. Yes, we do, as long as those third parties prove that they can be trusted. And that's done by proper testing and proper quality control. If the documentation is there to be relied upon, then you can rely upon it because it proves itself over time. It's where that documentation doesn't exist, that's when the doubt creeps in. And as with many of these things, it's not to say that the bathtub mixer, for want of a better term, isn't reliable and isn't doing a decent job. There's just a doubt there that we would rather wasn't there when it comes to the powers that be being able to say, but there's a doubt there. Let's get rid of the doubt.
Yeah, absolutely spot on. I didn't say in the VT because I didn't think this. That people who are perhaps mixing from home, bathtub mixers, kitchen sink mixers are terms that we're used to hearing at the moment. They're topical terms, but let's be a little bit more charitable and just say people who are working from home.
Yes.
The suggestion is not that these guys are shut down. After all, there are many food businesses, sandwich businesses and stuff that are run from home premises. It is about paperwork. It is about asking. If in the absence of any sort of regulation at the moment, whether it be trading standards or any kind of regulation at all, the first thing that I strongly recommend people do is ask. When a new juice supplier pops up, right? If they don't want to answer the question, can you tell me about the conditions that this juice is mixed in? Personally, I just walk away. That's the end of the conversation.
Absolutely.
And really, guys, just ask them. Most people who have invested in or gone to a lot of trouble, at least, to prepare clean areas and have processes in place, will gladly volunteer that information to you.
They'll send you photographs and videos and point you to websites
They
that have
do.
been there and had a look at them.
Exactly. Have a look on YouTube. There are a number of UK vendors. Some are eCita members and some aren't, who are very proud of their facilities, and they've took a camera around and showed you the guys in the white coats and cleaning stuff down at the end of the day, in a safe area, and they show you how they make sure that the right bottle gets picked up for the mix.
This is exactly it. I mean, if you've got all of those things in place, then something that does slip through is going to have to be very, very unusual, I would have thought, which means that you've got that much more confidence that what you're buying is not going to be of substandard quality. If it's just, I picked the 100 milligram bottle up instead of the 10, so that's probably a little bit stronger than it needs to be. What? No.
A good point by Moonlit there. He's saying regarding asking, the point that I was just making, he said that's fine for us, but casual users won't expect to have to ask. And that is exactly why I pitched that VT where I did. I would expect that most of the people watching this live on Sunday the 28th of October, and the guys commenting in chat have been around at least as long as I have, longer in a lot of cases, and they know what they expect and what they want from a juice supplier. That VT, I've stuck it on YouTube. I'm going to sort of push it around a bit because, hey, it's my little bit. You're right, people won't expect to ask. They'll expect, dare I say it, some kind of regulation.
Well, they'd expect some kind of documentation. And I think documentation is reasonable to expect. And it's not beyond the wit of anybody that's producing e-juice for commercial sale to be able to produce the right documentation. And in these days of technology, it's not difficult to create the PDF and have it up on the website so that people can see the source and
That's all it
purity of the ingredients. It's not that hard. And if it's not that hard, they need to do it.
No, I completely agree.
I'd much rather, honestly, would much rather that every vendor of e-juice took the steps to be as transparent as possible about what they're selling, rather than have it forced on them by a government or an MHRA and World Health Organization that actually wants to see the back end of e-cigs. That's the whole point. That's the bit that scares me. Now, I might be, somebody actually described me as a professional pessimist.
Yeah, a pessimist will normally tell you they're a realist.
Well,
in my experience,
all I'm trying to do is to find out what's the worst. Everything I look at tends to be the worst case scenario. That way, at some point in time on VT Talk, I am going to be able to give some good news and say, look, I was wrong. We have got juice. We can buy it in 2 ml bottles, one at a time, and you're not allowed more than one a month.
Generally speaking, pessimists don't get disappointed as well.
Well, that's the other good thing. Yes.
I'm just going to pick up a comment there, because this goes back to an earlier comment as well. It happens to be Lazy Dog again this time. He's saying a chip shop could have all the right paperwork, and it doesn't mean I would eat their chips.
Well, no.
That's a valid point. But
you've just got to look at the lasses serving them, and if there's filth under the fingernails and things dropping out of their hair that have legs on and crawl about. No, I wouldn't either.
But I'd just like to make the point as well that as far as I know, there's nothing in chips that is as lethal as nicotine if it's not controlled. Not unless something goes really badly wrong.
You haven't been in some of the chip shops in Redcar.
Well, that's true. I did go to Scotland once.
Oh, it's a different part of the world entirely. They talk funny and the men wear skirts.
Russell Ord is saying, I'm just picking out one-liners here, guys. This is not a comprehensive sort of VT Talk style show. I'm doing my best here. But Russell's made a comment there that says transparency is the most important thing. And I think that's a good summary, actually. That's a good summary.
I mean, how many vendors in the UK do we know were using box elder? And the answer is none. We don't know of any. But we don't know whether that number is correct.
Can I just check something there, because you've mentioned box elder. As I recall, there was stuff going out labelled as being sort of 50 milligram, what I would say sort of safe consumable doses, that was actually closer to 200 at times.
It was over 200. It was 248 milligram.
Because there was a point earlier saying, that it's unlikely that a mistake could be made where, it could be harmful. But I'm telling you, if you get somebody who's bought 50 to cut it down to 24, and they've cut it down 50-50 to mix it, and whether it be a retailer or a home DIY mixer, that's over 100 milligrams.
Well, the issue wasn't so much with what would be the end product, because 100 milligram, you'd take one hit and that would do you. You would know. The issue was more that with it being 248 milligram, it was of a sufficient concentration that transdermal absorption would have landed you in hospital.
Yeah.
Now, you've got to bear in mind, if these folks are used to handling 54, which was, if you like, the stuff that was normally available, and they got 258, they would know that if you dropped some 54 on your hand, it didn't really matter. You could just wipe it off with a cloth. Drop 248 on, especially if you've got a graze or a cut or a scab or something like that, and you could be in dire straits in a very, very short order of time. That was
point being, it can be that serious, and it has been. I mean, the only thing that surprises me now in the aftermath of box elder is that somebody wasn't seriously hurt, or at least we never heard if anybody was.
I don't think anybody was, and that's purely and simply because it got caught quickly enough.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was an extreme case, guys, and we use it to make a point, but it happened, it did happen. And this wasn't like some small little business either. This was like a major supplier within the US. And as Dave said, we don't know how many European or UK mixers were being supplied by them. We just don't know. That information isn't available.
Well, Russell, again, he's quite voluble, is Russell, but he does come out with a lot of sense. He says it's not hard just to tell people the sources. We're not talking about publishing recipes here. Russell's quite right. We're not saying, it's 4 drops of this and 3 drops of that and a little bit of this and a little bit of the other. What we're saying is it's not difficult to put up. All of the nicotine we use is certified and comes from insert name of proper pharmaceutical place here, with all of the certification. It doesn't need any more than that. If we as customers and consumers know that what they've bought in is 72 milligram and it's been cut to 36, 72 ain't going to kill you. Even if they do get it horribly wrong, it ain't going to kill you. But you know where it's come from. So you know the degree of purity. And if it's all being done in food hygiene standards, you're not getting dog fleas, baby poo, and God knows what else in it. It's
Dave,
not difficult.
You're right. Dave, do you remember the conversation we had just before we went on air about who was monitoring Skype? Because I couldn't see. I'm looking at my watch and I think we may be in trouble.
Yes, we're 2 minutes over. Cat's bouncing up and down. I've just switched to that. Cat.
It's his fault. My fault. It's his fault. Guys, thank you very much for the comment in chat there. That's one of the liveliest Dave's Tackle Boxes we've had for a while. Let's keep those comments coming in. I've posted the video on YouTube. Get your comments on there. I'll read them in time for the next show. There'll be no Dave's Tackle Box next week either, because I'm skiving off again, because I'm going for a weekend away with my missus. So I'll be back in 2 weeks' time. We've got a new reporter stroke presenter coming to join us on VTTV, and I'll introduce him to you in 2 weeks' time. Until then, thanks for watching. Dave, thank you very much for joining.
More than welcome, Dave. Happy sort to do. I'm crawling to cat now.
Yeah, I'd start making you excuses. Mind you can hear this conversation actually, so bye everyone. Good night.
Bye.
Cloud9 Vaping, sponsors of Dave's Tackle Box.